a city where the clashing of swords could be heard alongside impassioned oratory. Ancient Rome was a tableau of human endeavor, teeming with both splendor and contradictions. Here, the Republic and Empire weren't just political entities, but the pulse and heartbeat of a civilization that has profoundly influenced the very fabric of modern life. The Roman Senate, once bustling with debate, gave early lessons in governance. The streets of Subaru, although crowded and dirty, were the veins pumping life into a vibrant urban body. It was a realm where democracy coexisted with autocracy, and where awe-inspiring architectural marvels stood as silent witnesses to the unfolding tapestry of human drama. At the intersection of power, culture, and history, Rome's monumental impact raises a question. What did a typical day in this ancient metropolis look like? Prepare to traverse time as we explore the daily intricacies of a civilization that has never truly fallen. In the heart of ancient Rome, two distinct types of residences painted a vivid picture of the social landscape: insulae and domus. The insulae, multi-storied apartment buildings, were the dwelling places of the commoners, the plebeians. Made often of flammable materials like wood and mud brick, these structures were more functional than ornamental. Cramped and noisy, they were stark reminders of the economic divide. Contrast this with the domus, the haven of Rome's elite. These were elaborate homes, strategically situated to symbolize status and wealth. Featuring an array of rooms and often a garden, these houses were artistic marvels. An intricate mosaic at the doorstep would typically announce the owner's profession or personal motto. But the jewel in the crown was the atrium, a central courtyard that not only allowed light and air into the house, but also served as a reception area where the paterfamilias, the family head, would meet guests. The architecture thus spoke volumes. The atrium was not just an architectural feat, it was a symbol of transparency, a meeting point where public and private lives converged. It's as if the buildings themselves were frozen moments of social discourse, narrating tales of status, lifestyle, and cultural priorities. From the fields of far-flung provinces to the kitchens of Rome, grain reigned supreme. It was more than sustenance, it was the lifeblood of the Roman populace. The government even distributed free or subsidized grain to maintain social stability, ensuring that the ovens of Rome were perpetually warm and the aroma of fresh bread wafted through the city's arteries. Beyond the bread, dining in Rome was a well-orchestrated ritual that unfolded not just in the kitchen, but also in the triclinium, the Roman dining room. The symposium wasn't merely a meal, it was an event. Seated, or more often reclining on plush couches, Romans consumed their food in courses. Gustatio, the starters, usually involved eggs or vegetables. The cena, the main course, could feature anything from roasted meats to rich stews. Mensa secunda, the dessert, was a sweet affair, typically fruits and nuts. Etiquette was as crucial as the food itself. Napkins were used, hands were meticulously washed, and diners were conscious of their table manners. A far cry from the insulae, where eating was more a utilitarian activity, a symposium in a domus was a choreographed dance of social mores. In a culture defined by its rituals and social structure, the clothing of ancient Romans served as a visual vocabulary. The toga, an expansive, semicircular piece of cloth, was a garment that spoke volumes, reserved primarily for Roman citizens. Its elaborate draping required skill, almost an art form, an unmistakable emblem of status and Roman identity. On the other hand, the stola, the traditional attire for Roman women, was a long, pleated dress, often accompanied by a cloak known as a palla. The stola signaled a woman's marital status and was a signifier of modesty and decorum. The language of Roman fashion wasn't just in the cut or drape, but also in the hue and material. For instance, senators donned togas with a purple stripe, a hue extracted from rare sea snails, making it a symbol of power and wealth. White togas, however, were the mark of the common man and were often worn during religious ceremonies and public events. The choice of fabric, too, from coarse wool to fine linen, laid bare one's social standing. In Rome, the attire you wore wasn't just a shield against the elements, but a mirror reflecting your societal role. From the materials chosen, whether the modest wool for the commoners or the luxurious silk and linen for the affluent, to the colors that adorned them, each choice was a chapter in a person's social narrative. As we shift our gaze from the nuanced language of Roman fashion to the very epicenter of public life, we find ourselves in another realm of complex social interplay: the Roman Forum. The Roman Forum was the nexus where the intricate threads of political power, economic enterprise, and social dynamics converged. Situated in the core of the city, this open plaza served as the principal stage for public affairs. Here, political debates ignited the air, legislation found its voice, and the complex machinery of governance was set into motion. Flanked by temples and basilicas, the Forum itself became a monumental testament to the democratic ethos and the imperial grandeur of Rome. On the commercial front, the Forum buzzed with activity, acting as a central marketplace. Merchants hawked everything from local produce to exotic imports, making it a melting pot of goods and cultures. Conversations flowed as freely as commerce, and the marketplace often doubled as a news hub. Socially, the Forum was a canvas of Roman culture. Orators held the public's attention with eloquent speeches. Philosophers disseminated new ideas, and religious festivals colored the square with ritualistic splendor. We've explored their homes, discussed their clothing, but what about the spiritual realm that guided their actions? The spiritual landscape of ancient Rome was a complex mosaic of deities, rituals, and temples. Jupiter, Mars, and Venus were among the key figures in a vast pantheon that influenced everything from political decisions to agricultural practices. These gods weren't just distant figures. They had material homes on Earth in the form of intricately designed temples. These sacred structures dotted the Roman cityscape, becoming focal points for communal gatherings and religious rites. Religious ceremonies were elaborate affairs involving sacrifices, prayers, and often complex rituals. Animal sacrifices were commonplace, seen as offerings to appease or seek favor from the gods. Divination practices such as augury, interpreting omens through the natural world, were also prevalent. Important festivals like Saturnalia were marked by public feasts, games, and often a temporary inversion of social roles. While the temples and forums met the spiritual and social needs of Romans, venues like the Colosseum and Circus Maximus catered to their appetite for recreation and spectacle. The Colosseum was an unparalleled arena, its walls echoing with the clash of gladiator against gladiator or beast. These contests weren't merely about blood and sand, they were highly choreographed events with layers of symbolic meaning, often reflecting military victories or religious rites. Then there was the Circus Maximus, the grand stadium built for chariot races. This elongated arena could accommodate up to 250,000 spectators, making it not just a sports venue but a potent symbol of Roman engineering prowess. Races here were a frenetic mix of speed, skill, and danger, capturing the essence of Roman passion for competition and glory. You've likely heard whispers or caught glimpses of the opulent Roman baths, a world where luxury met daily routine. Roman baths functioned as centers for both personal hygiene and public life. Designed with opulence in mind, the baths featured heated floors, pools of varying temperatures, and sometimes even libraries and lecture halls. Romans adhered to an elaborate bathing ritual that often included a warm soak, a massage, and a final application of fragrant oils. Socially, these baths were bustling hubs where people engaged in spirited conversations, brokered business deals, or simply caught up on the day's events. The relaxed ambience provided a counterpoint to the formal arenas of Roman politics or the devout atmosphere of temples. Architecturally, the baths were marvels of Roman engineering, utilizing advanced systems for heating water and circulating air. Currency was the lifeblood of Roman commerce, the engine driving an expansive and diversified economy. Unlike barter systems that limited the scale and complexity of trade, Roman coins, primarily denarii and sestertii, served as a standardized medium of exchange. They enabled the acquisition of a wide array of goods, from luxurious silks imported from the Far East to everyday items like pottery and olive oil. The marketplaces of Rome were vibrant hubs of activity, not just locally, but as integral nodes in an extensive trade network. The Via Appia and Via Salaria were among the critical trade routes connecting Rome to various parts of the empire and beyond. Goods flowed from as far away as Africa, Asia, and Northern Europe, contributing to Rome's status as a commercial powerhouse. Language is everything for a society. Lastly, we explore the essence of Roman communication, the foundation of their collective soul. Latin, the tongue of Rome, was a tool of power. It was taught rigorously to children belonging to affluent families, often by Greek slaves who were scholarly in their own right. Children from less privileged backgrounds generally learned through rudimentary schooling or family instruction. Within Roman society, mastery of language was not merely a sign of education, but also a symbol of one's social standing. The ability to express oneself eloquently was highly prized, evident in the society's respect for orators and lawyers. Prominent figures like Cicero demonstrated that eloquence in speech could be a route to political influence and social prestige. Oratory was considered an art form, often taught from an early age as part of a comprehensive education. It was not just the content, but the style, the cadence, and the rhetorical flourishes that captivated audiences and swayed opinions. Latin, thus, was not merely a means of communication, it was an instrument of power, an enabler of social mobility, and a cornerstone of Roman identity. In the labyrinth of Roman streets, the clamor of the marketplaces, and the solemnity of temples, we find a civilization both extraordinary and influential. Ancient Rome's enduring legacies continue to shape our modern world. If this voyage through the daily life of Roman society has piqued your interest, we invite you to subscribe for more illuminating journeys into history.